Hello people, welcome to my channel. Happy listening. Ponniyin Selvan, Fresh Floods, Kalki, translated by Pavitra Srinivasan. Chapter 3, The Vinnagara Temple. They say that life is an unpredictable journey that surprises one at every turn. That trivial incidents are often the catalyst to significant life-altering events that turn the world upside down. Such an experience occurred to Vandiyadevan at that moment. He had been staring, slack-jawed, at the Paruvetarayar procession as it wound its way through the crowd. His horse had been standing just a little further away. The last of Paruvetarayar's cavalcade, marching behind their mates, caught sight of it. "Adey!" exclaimed one. "Look at that Kurudai!" "That's a horse, not a mule, dimwit," corrected another. An acid comment intercepted them. "Will you two scholars kindly set aside grammar lessons and find out if that animal is a horse or an ass?" "Now this is a mission more to my liking," agreed a third. He promptly set off towards the steed and attempted to clamber on its back. That intelligent animal, realizing instinctively that the newcomer was not his master, shook him off. It flounced away, obviously distressed. "Well, well, would you believe the temper of this one?" chuckled the soldier who had taken a tumble to the ground. "The mule won't let me mount. It's a respectable animal, you see, once a member of an ancient royal clan for its master." He appeared to ponder this deeply. "In that case, no one less than a prince of the Tanjavur Muttarayar dynasty would do," he quipped, and the soldiers around him cackled appreciatively. There was reason for their derisive laughter. The Muttarayar dynasty of Tanjavur had been crushed out of existence 100 years ago. The Chola Empire's tiger flag fluttered triumphantly in its place. "Who cares what the horse thinks?" put in one. "I'd say that our Tandavarayan right here is 1,000 times better than some descendant of long-dead Tanjavur Muttarayars." "Tandavaraya, you'd better make sure this animal really is a horse and not a false-legged prop for the temple festivities," mocked another soldier. "After all, it refused to let you mount, didn't it?" "An excellent idea," agreed Tandavarayan, and proceeded to put this to the test. He approached the horse and this time caught its tail, giving it a vicious twist. That much afflicted animal decided enough was enough, kicked its hind legs 3 or 4 times and galloped away. "Ah, look at it run! It really is a mule then. How wrong we were!" yelled the soldiers, carried away by what was to them a hilarious sight. They whistled and screeched, "Ui! Ui!" and crashed behind the horse as it stumbled through the festival crowd. People milling about tried to get away from the terrified animal as it plowed through them. Most managed to escape, but some were still caught under its thundering hooves and suffered injuries. The horse galloped on, meanwhile, maddened out of its senses. All of this had happened in moments before Vandiyadevan could gather himself and take any action. Arvar Kadiyan, who had caught sight of the young man's expression, guessed that the stallion was his. "Saw the antics of those Paravur oafs, Thambi?" His voice was suave. "Why couldn't you teach them the lesson you promised me?" The smoothly delivered taunt found its mark. Vandiyadevan's face turned crimson with fury. He grit his teeth, however, and forced himself to keep calm. The Paravur men had turned out in full force. There was no point in trying to take on hundreds of them in a fight. They had not stayed behind to look for a quarrel with the horse's owner either, marching away after cackling at the animal for a while. Vandiyadevan chose, instead, to go after his stallion, which had slowed down to a stop after a while. He had not been much worried about it. The horse was well trained, he knew, and would not wander away too far. No, what he was itching to do was teach those arrogant Paravur idiots a lesson. But now was not the time. He would have to wait. The horse had come to a halt in a tamarind grove, away from the milling throngs. Sorrow practically dripped off its drooping mien, and it neighed a little when Vandiyadevan approached. Why did you leave me alone among those louts? It seemed to ask, and Vandiyadevan applied himself to the task of soothing its lacerated nerves. He patted its back and managed to calm it down enough to walk it back to the thoroughfare. The crowd caught sight of him and impaled him with criticism. Why did you bring this unruly animal to the festivities, boy? They complained. Look at the number of innocent people who have suffered its kicks. Others were slightly more charitable. Not the poor boy's fault at all. What could he do? What could the horse do for that matter? It was just the mad, vulgar antics of those Paravur men. Arvakadiyan stood waiting as Vandiyadevan returned with the horse, and the young man's face narrowed with irritation. Why won't this quarrelling idiot leave me alone? What's your direction, Tambi? Asked the Vaishnavite. Well, I fully intend to travel to the west and then turn south and then perhaps take a stroll to the east and double back to the southwest. Vandiyadevan rattled off. That wasn't what I meant. Where do you intend to stay tonight? Why do you wish to know? If you were perhaps intending to lodge at the Kadambur Sambuvarayar Palace, I have a commission for you. Well, are you an expert in the black arts or magic? How on earth did you know where I was headed? Hardly something that warrants the expertise of a magician. Dozens of visitors will arrive today from all over the country and stay at the palace. Is that so? Murmured Vandiyadevan, surprise colouring his voice. Indeed, don't tell me you didn't know this. To whom else could the palanquin, royal umbrellas, elephants, horses, drums, conches, and trumpets belong but the Kadambur royal family? They were here to welcome and escort Paruvetarayar to the palace. He would expect and settle for nothing less. This was news indeed. Opportunities to stay in the same place as Choranad's greatest warrior would not be easy to come by. Who knew? He might even chance upon a God given excuse to actually meet him and introduce himself, perhaps. All this was highly tempting, but recent experience with Paruvetarayar's broods had soared his expectations a little. Lost in reverie, Vandiyadevan came to himself at Arvarkadiyan's voice. Tambi, will you do me a favor? Arvarkadiyan's tone was filled with pleading. What sort of favor could I offer you? I'm a stranger to these parts myself. I wouldn't ask you anything beyond your means. Take me to the Kadambur palace with you tonight. Whatever for? Do you expect to meet a Savite there? Perhaps you're eager to debate with him about the respective merits of Shiva and Tirumal? Of course not. Did you really think I picked quarrels for a living? See, my lad, the palace will resound with celebrations tonight. They are sure to hold an enormous feast which will be followed by Kaliyatam, Samiyatam, a delightful Kuravai Kuthu, dances and songs. I have never seen a Kuthu and this would be a perfect chance. Be that as it may, how would I be able to escort you? You could introduce me as your servant. Every suspicion that Vandiyadevan had entertained some time ago returned in full force and grew in strength. Look, you'd better play off your petty tricks on someone else. I am not the man to fall for them. The last thing I want is someone like you as my servant. And who do you think will believe such a thing? No one would, even if I were stupid enough to take you with me. Besides, judging by everything you say, I doubt if even I will find a place to stay there tonight. Then, you are not travelling to Kadambur by invitation? I am, in a way. Sambuvarayar's son, Kandan Maravel, is a very dear friend of mine and has often insisted that I visit him if I am ever in these parts. Is that all? You won't find it an easy circumstance to enter the palace tonight then. They walked together in silence for a while. Why do you follow me? Asked Vandiyadevan finally. I could ask you the same thing. Why don't you go your own way? Because I don't know my way around, of course. Nambi, do you go to Kadambur as well? No, you've refused to take me along, haven't you? I'm on my way to the Vinnagara temple. To the Veeranarayana Perumal temple, you mean? Yes, I would like to visit too. Would you now? I wondered if you might object to entering Vishnu temples. This one has an excellent history and is worthy of worship as well. There's a Bhattar, a priest here by name Ishwara Munigal, who serves at the temple. A great man indeed. I've heard of him too. But the shrine's so crowded today. Is it some sort of auspicious occasion? Of course, today is the birth star of the Lady Andal, one among the 12 Arvas, the chief of Thirumal's devotees. And then it's Adi Perk as well, which explains the teeming crowds. Hardly surprising, is it? Arva Kadiyan changed tack. Tambi, have you ever listened to any of Andal's songs? No, don't. Never make even the attempt. Why this hatred? I cherish neither hatred nor loathing for her pasurams. All I wanted was to warn you about their fatal charm. My lad, if you ever had the misfortune of listening to her exquisite poems, you'd throw away your spear and sword, swear off your military lifestyle, and wander away on a pilgrimage through all the Vinnagara temples in the land. Do you know any? Can you sing them? A few. I've learned some of Nammarva's divine verses as well. I intend to sing them at the temple. You may listen if you wish, answered Nambi. Ah, here we are. And in truth, they had arrived at the Veeranarayanapura temple. Parantaka Chorar the grandson of Vijayalaya Chorar, carried the magnificent title of the Koppara Kesari who conquered Madurai and Eram, and it was he who laid the foundations for the empire the Chora kingdom would later become. Parantakar was also the bearer of other grand titles. He it was who had fitted Tillai Chitrambalam or the Chidambaram temple with a golden roof. He possessed the titles of Chora Sigamani, Sura Sigamani among others, not to mention Veera Narayanan as well. The Rashtrakuta kings of the Rettai Mandalam kingdom in the north wielded considerable power during his time. Parantakar suspected that they might cherish designs on the Chora territories as well and stationed his firstborn, Prince Rajaditya, in the Tirumanai Padi country with a large army at his disposal. Rajaditya was loath to let hundreds of thousands of warriors lounge about with nothing to do and hit upon a plan. They would work towards something that benefited a large swath of the local population. Well aware that copious amounts of water overflowed the banks of the Vadakaveri or Kollidam and drained into the sea with no use to anyone, he made arrangements for his men to dig a massive lake to collect it. He named it the Veeranarayana Eri in honor of his beloved father and raised a Vinnagara temple as well. It was common for Vishnu temples or Vishnu Grihas to be known in Tamil as Vinnagaram in those days. Tirumal, or to address him by another name, Sriman Narayanan Murthy, was the protector, the supreme guardian of all life as he lay on his snake bed in a sea of milk. It was only appropriate that temples in his name were often raised on the banks of lakes. This was also the reason for the presence of the Veeranarayana temple on the banks of this one too. Arval Kadiyan and Vandyadevan entered the sacred precincts of such a holy temple. Once they approached the sanctum, the Vaishnavite cleared his voice and began to sing. He worked through a few of Andal's divine pasurams or songs and finally touched upon Nammarva's work, commonly referred to as the Tamil Vedam. Puliga Puliga Puliga, Poitru Valluir Chabam, Naliyum Naragamum Nainda, Namanukingu Yadondrum Illai, Kaliyum Kedum Kandu Kolmin, Kadal Vannan Budhangal Manmel, Maliya Pugundu Isai Padi, ஆடியுழித்தரக் கண்டோம் 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 கண்ணுக்கினியான கண்டோம் தொண்டீர் எல்லீரும் வாரீர் தொழுது தொழுது நின்றதும் வந்தால் தன்னன் துழையான் மாதவன் பூதங்கள் மண்மேல் பண்டான் பாடி நின்றாடி பறந்து திரிகின்றனவே. Behold, behold the shining grace of the Lord, who redeems us of our curses. Behold the light that banishes the darkness of hell, that releases us from the yoke of death. The age of Kali is at an end, and those who worship Lord Vishnu will rise again upon this earth. Sing and dance to glory. Behold, behold the sight that gladdens our hearts, to see the prayers of his servants rise to reach him. We who sing his praises are lost in the ecstasy of his grace, as bees drunk on the nectar of his tulsi garland. Tears gathered in Alvarkadiyan's eyes, rolling slowly down his cheeks as he gave himself up to the beauty of the divine. Vandiyadevan listened carefully as well, and though he shed none, his heart melted at the simple beauty and pure emotions that were their essence. His sentiments towards Arvalkadiyan underwent a change as well. This man, he thought, is true servant of God. Others, beside the young man, immersed themselves in the songs. The Mudalimar, the temple authorities, lost themselves in it, as did the priest Ishwara Bhattar, who stood by the sanctorum, tears brimming in his eyes. By him stood a fresh faced youngster, his attention entirely on the singing Vaishnavite. Arvalkadiyan sang 10 Pashurams with utmost feeling and finished with one more. Kaliwayal Tennan Kurukur, Kari Maram Sadagagopan, ஒளி புகழ் ஆயிரது இப்பதும் உள்ளத்தை மாசுருக்குமே. Sing these songs, devout ones, composed by Karimara Sadagopan of Kurugur in the Divine Lord's order, and thy heart will be cleansed of every blemish. When he finished, the youngster leant towards his father and whispered something into his ears. The Bhattar, who had bent down, straightened and wiped his eyes. Ayya, hasn't the revered Nammalvar Sadagopan of Kurugur sung 1,000 songs in praise of our Lord? Do you know them all? This servant hasn't had that good fortune, answered Nambi. I am acquainted with a few though. Pray teach this youngster of mine whatever you know, requested the Bhattar. Veeranarayanapuram was to be honoured with a great many more accolades in the coming years. The young Bhattar's son, who now stands beside his father, listening to the chaste pasurams of Nammarvar, his face a picture of innocence and the radiance of youth, would grow up to become Nada Munigal, the first and most illustrious of many Vaishnava acharyas. Later, he would journey to Kurugur, also known as Alvar Tirunagari, and gather all thousands of Nammarvar's beautiful verses, adding even more acclaim to the great devotee who had composed the Tamil Vedam. Nadamunigal's many disciples would painstakingly catalogue these verses, memorize them, and sing them all over the country. His noble work would not stop there. Nadamunigal's grandson, Alavandar, would lead a life rich with destiny and far more miraculous events than even his grandfather. More praise would pour in. Udayavar Sri Ramanujar himself would visit this, the birthplace of such greatness, and stare in astonishment at the Veera Narayanapuram lake and its 74 gushing canals. He would ponder upon the endless grace and compassion of Tirumal, who showered his blessings upon his devotees just as the canals that poured water into the lake. This would lead the saint to conceive of setting up 74 Acharya Pidams or Vaishnavite centers for devotees. These would one day lead to the establishment of 74 Simhasanadipadigal or Vaishnavite leaders who would dispense knowledge and grace to devotees in their turn and begin a rich tradition that would continue over centuries. But such things do not come under the purview of this tale. We shall let the richly combined tones of Vaishnava Guru Parambarai to recount their lives and return to Vandiyadevan. Once they had completed their worship and walked out of the temple, the Vanar warrior turned to Alvarkadiyan. Nambi, I must beg your forgiveness. I had no idea that you were such a devout man or that you were so well learned. You won't hold my ignorant words against me, will you? By all means, you have my forgiveness. But tell me, will you do me a favor? I said that I couldn't do what you wanted, and you agreed, didn't you? Ah, but what I wish you to do now is something else altogether. I shall give you a tiny note. Should you have the opportunity to stay in the Kadambur palace tonight, you must deliver it into the hands of a certain person. Oh, to whom? The woman who followed Parvatarayar in her closed palanquin. Nambi, what sort of a man do you take me for? Do I really seem like the kind that delivers notes to women? Had it been anyone but you who asked this of me, if you're unwilling, Tambi, leave by all means. There's absolutely no need to fly into a passion. The thing is, if you'd helped me with this, I might have lent you my assistance at some point. Never mind. Vandiyadevan lingered no more. He leapt on his horse and galloped towards Kadambur. End of chapter. I hope you guys enjoyed listening. Please like, share, and subscribe, and do comment your thoughts. Thank you.